welcome in. I'm Dr. Jim Cellini. I'm a board-certified veterinary neurologist with a fledgling YouTube channel, as you've known by now. And today I am graced by the very busy and very popular Dr. Hunter Finn. Good morning. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I know we've talked a lot through social media, but this is like the first time we've really connected for this.
Yeah, I'm learning that trying to book people for little, like, I don't know, 30-minute to hour-long snippets is difficult because the life of a veterinarian is quite busy, especially if you do social media on top of it.
Yeah, it's tough, but we'll do this and we'll do it.
Yeah.
We're happy to come back too if we don't get canceled together.
I mean, there's a greater than 0% chance that would happen anytime that I'm on a microphone, is the way I see it. So, if you're cool with it, I've got a list of 10 questions that I've kind of formulated that serve to cover like kind of your, origin in veterinary medicine, your social media journey, and then some kind of random questions kind of thrown in there. We can obviously spin off the conversation however we want to, if that's cool with you. Okay, cool. All right. So question number one, every vet I know seems to kind of think of a moment when they've discovered veterinary medicine as a calling. I'm no exception. I had a saddle thrombus cat when I was 15. I found it in the garage and nobody could tell me what happened to it. We just said goodbye to it and that was it. That made me very upset. And that was kind of my origin for wanting to become a vet. So my first question is, walk me through if there was any sort of moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is for me and this is something I want to pursue early on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like a series of moments and it's kind of corny, but the honest truth is when I did today, I was always more, I'm not so social. Like you wouldn't see that from my social media, but I'm very like withdrawn person. It's hard for me conversations. I'm definitely more introverted. So like I naturally got along with animals more because all they do is love you and you don't have to like hold a strong conversation. So
it turns out you don't.
Yeah. So whenever, unless you're Dr. Doolittle, I guess, but whenever I was 6 or 7 years old, I had a Maltese and I'm from Louisiana. So we named her Mardi Gras, so little white Maltese. And she was just my best friend. And I had her for 16 years, and she actually passed when like halfway through my first semester of vet school. So I felt like her like saying, okay, my job's done. Like you've gotten here, like you can take it away. But I've just always loved animals more than people. I mean, that's the honest truth. People, I love animals, and she was my best friend. And I wanted to try to figure out a way like how I could repay them. And I thought becoming a veterinarian like the ultimate way to do that.
Yeah. Very cool. I think a lot of people, myself included, I remember the feeling of like, yeah, I kind of like spending time around animals more than people. But I also feel like when you go into veterinary medicine, like you have to be able to deal with people and to work with people, obviously. Like that's not something that you can just like delete and be a vet. So that's definitely something that I try to like tell young people who are going into the field for sure.
Like I didn't realize that until I got out into the real world of practicing. It's like you deal with people probably more so than you would have thought because they're making decisions for another living, breathing thing, right?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. So for the pre-vet people out there watching this, we'll get into your social media following. I'm sure like a lot of your social media following is, vet students and people that want to be a vet. Just right off the bat, what is there a singular piece of advice that you could help them if they're in the let's say the pre-college almost even phase of their life, who are just wanting to kind of go down this path?
Yeah, I honestly, the thing that helped me the most was like going into veterinary practices, spending my summers there, like go to different hospitals, like experience different things and see what it's actually like, because what you read and what you hear about might be completely different than what you experience there. So if you're really thinking about it, I encourage you to like spend some of your summers at different vet hospitals with different veterinarians, maybe in different fields, and like learning like what it is the day-to-day looks like. I think that's super.
And also they'll probably hire you if you say I want to come help nowadays.
They'll probably offer you some pay to
Yeah, exactly. No, I know back in 1999, I was in high school and I wanted to work at my local vet's office to kind of see how it was too. I did the same thing and they wouldn't hire me. I was like, I will literally work in your kennel. And they're like, no, we're good. We have enough employees. And I had to beg them for like 6 months before I got a job. And nowadays that would be literally unheard of. Like,
Correct.
no possible way that would ever happen. They would be like, the first day I showed up, they'd be like, please, will you work here? Is kind of how things have gone nowadays.
It's a little different now.
Slightly, yeah. So you went to vet school. You graduated from LSU, from what I researched, and you graduated in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes, May of
Okay.
2009.
I also, got the sense from your socials that your hobbies include health and fitness. You like to, work out and try to keep the mind and body healthy. My question to you is, when you were at LSU in Baton Rouge, how many times did you eat at the Chimes, and how did Cajun food affect your health and fitness?
Oh, I was fatter than ever back then. To be honest.
Same, same.
My turning point, because it's kind of like in high school, like I played sports, like I was not, I was somewhat athletic. Like I wasn't like the best, but I was like in okay shape. And then I got to college and I kind of waxed and waned, worked out a little bit. And then I got to vet school and that just went all out the door. I remember sitting in my lazy boy, and this was like my what do they call it? Like your turning point in life. And I was trying to get up out of my lazy boy to
A
go
rock
get more
bottom.
beer and more Nutella, and I was like out of breath, and I could feel like rolls, and I was like, "This is different. I've never experienced this." I was like, "Okay." Then I got broken up with, and then I was like, "Okay, I need to get in shape." And
Woo, that's a confluence of events right there.
it was it was good. It was really good for me though, and like that honestly helped me so much because I was angry in vet school. I was like, this guy, like this professor's so mean, like this is so hard. And then when I started working out, I was still a little angry, but it was a lot less angry. So it definitely
Yeah.
helped my mental health.
I I can completely. I mean, those feelings that you just described. I can think of literal instances throughout vet school where I experienced the same thing. Like, I remember going to a restaurant and just eating way too much, and I was like way overweight one year, and just feeling like in pain after I left the restaurant. And I was like, why did I just do this to myself? And you start hating yourself when you're unhealthy, and then you start like that we're kind of touching on the fact that, like, if you hate yourself, it starts to bleed through in your performance in like school and work and business and all this sort of stuff. But it's totally true. And then like one year I decided I was going to like join a gym, and I actually worked out really hard for one year, and it translates so much to just like being on a clinical rotation, and like you're more enjoyable to be around. You actually suddenly want to go to work every day. Like, every day is not like a dread anymore when you're not like in pain from being unhealthy. So yeah, no, that's pretty funny you say. I remember laying on a couch actually watching Superbad in 2007, and I was literally just like looking at my stomach like, oh my god, like, what is happening to me?
I can't for it, and it did like
Yeah,
confidence, and I felt better about myself. It
yeah,
translated into I felt like same person, same knowledge, but I feel like I can communicate with clients better. I can do my job better.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really good stuff. What is your best and worst memory of veterinary school? I may have touched on it already, but
Veterinary school. I mean, I would say my best memory. It's just like accumulation of memories. Like I miss a lot of my friends that I made. It was a small group, but like we went through a lot together in those 4 years, and like I do miss them. We're all in different parts of the country now, doing different things. Everyone's starting families, so you kind of lose touch with them. But I definitely miss that. They were the best part of that school was the people.
yeah,
The part, I mean, honestly, and I actually just went back to LSU to speak to the VBMA there. So I got like all
yeah,
these people. And when I stepped in there, and it's just like how gloomy it is. Like it's just like so many sleepless nights of like taking this test, or like you're not gonna become a doctor. Like you're it's just a weird feeling to describe. It's just like
yeah.
dark, depressing. And that's what I felt like for 4 years. And then I got out in the real world and I'm like, okay, it's a little bit better, you
Right.
know?
Have they remodeled the vet school any recently at all, or is it like one of those 30-year-old facilities that makes you even more sad?
It's very old and like
Yeah.
almost like the age
Hmm.
there. But they did just add a new like clinical area for like what would you call it? Like a GP style, like where clients like
Like a
client
community practice thing?
like a community practice,
Okay.
exactly. They thing there. Um, you know, it's new. That's really it.
Yeah. Did you ever at any point in vet school think about specializing, or did you know you wanted to do GP pretty much the whole time, or did it change?
I never, maybe I thought about specializing, but I didn't know what I would specialize in. And just the thought of going through more schooling was like not happening for me. I just
Yeah.
couldn't. Like, I who do specialize like you and like all these other specialists, I think it takes a very special type of person. It is not easy. I couldn't imagine doing 4 to 5 to 6 more years of what I already did.
Yeah. Turns out it's I can't speak for everybody, but it can be total misery as it turns out. Um, very cool. So, let's talk about your TikTok a little bit. I mean, I have to, right? You have a ginormous TikTok. So my question is, do you know your highest viewed TikTok?
I don't. I would assume it's probably had to do with dancing though, probably,
Probably.
or it's a duet of like a dog doing something goofy.
Okay. Well, I happen to know what it is.
Okay, which one is it?
So it's this one right here. Can you see it?
Oh yeah, I actually remember making this TikTok. I liked it,
There you go.
and this was in my old practice in Arlington. It was
Okay.
a client. She was okay with me doing this. Her puppy was so cute.
Yeah, that
That
is a very cute puppy.
because I look, I'm gonna be honest with you. People ask me like, how hard is it to create content, and a lot of times it's very hard. This one I literally made in about 15 seconds, and I was like,
Yeah.
here, I'm just post, and it, as you've said, is my highest viewed TikTok, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, do you know how many views it has? Because I also know that.
I know it. I last time I looked, it had like 4.
Yeah. From what I saw, I looked this up like a couple months ago. It was 17 million currently.
I had no idea.
Yeah. It's I don't understand what goes viral and what doesn't. Like, because this just boom takes off. I've got one that went to like 20, it's at like 28 million right now. And it's just like I didn't do anything. All I did was show a cat with a demyelinating disorder for like 4 seconds. I was like,
Was that?
oh, this is interesting.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've only been doing social media for 3 years now, but I still have no idea. I mean, I think
Yeah.
personally, the more you like step back and you just like post stuff, something's gonna take off because the things I've really tried like hours on get like a couple hundred views, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's, and then those
Right.
off.
um, that's very cool. So your very first TikTok was in, I looked this up too. So I looked through your account, and I'm just going to tell you right now that my TikTok algorithm changed. Let's just say I get a lot more dancing guys now in my algorithm since I had to like do some research here. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But your very first TikTok was posted on March 5th, 2020. Does that sound about right? Okay. So this was 1 week before COVID-19 was declared a national emergency. My question for you is, what was it like being a new grad? I would consider you a new grad because you're within a year of graduating at that point. What was it like being a new grad when COVID hit and then the entire industry got flipped on its heels and turned upside and just completely changed?
Yeah, it didn't affect me too much. I had a really good support system in my old practice. I had colleagues that like we continued as normal other than side, but I think I communicate with clients really well. I think that's one of my strengths, and I think even over the phone, clients felt very comfortable with me. So it didn't affect me too much. It actually probably increased my productivity because
Yeah.
I could see that's and just call people and say, this is what's happening, this is what I recommend. And they were like, oh, that sounds great, let's do it. Like I think I was more efficient during that year or two. But like from a new grad being in a new city away from family and everything, it was a little lonely. And I think that's probably why I was making so much social content.
Right. Some element of boredom just creating, hey, might as well just throw some stuff out there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. What was how long before you started noticing like, hey, I'm getting some traction here on this app?
I would say I remember the first time was probably like May of that year. There
Okay.
were a few, but there was one video in particular that was me like literally like horrible dance. I mean, they're all horrible, but it was really bad. 5 things toxic to your pet. And I remember, of course, all the things that go viral, this one does. And I woke up that morning, I had like 30,000 new followers, which I was like, this is crazy. I had
Wow.
12,000 comments. I looked at the comments, everyone's saying how stupid I am, like chocolate
Right.
doesn't bugs, like all these things. And I was like,
Right.
am I stupid?
Right.
Like, am I
Right. Right.
bet? I know what I know, but I was like, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to end up on the news. And
Yeah.
I turned my phone off the rest of the day.
Really? It got too overwhelming.
It made me so nervous because I'd never had social media before this. Like that was really like my first time starting this.
Uh-huh.
And I don't, I've historically been a people pleaser, like stuff like that really scares me. Three
Yeah.
years later, whatever, call me whatever you want. That stuff doesn't bother me. I feel
Got a
back then
hardened exoskeleton now.
happening like that. It freaked me out.
Yeah. Um, it is the virality of TikTok is unbelievable. When you actually do find something that pops like that, you watch your alerts on your phone, like you literally it says 99 plus and you scroll up to refresh it and see everything, and then it just refills at 99 plus, and you keep doing that. And it's like there's 99 different comments and likes and all sorts of things, shares and duets and all this stuff that you can't and you're just like, oh my God. And it's completely overwhelming the way it can spread like that.
It is, and it's crazy too, because like I remember I used to do that. I'd be like, okay, I know a video is gonna do well if I refresh it, and usually I'd wait like an hour, but like if I refresh it and it's going up 500, 600,000 views in that like few minutes, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, back. This is about to be this is about to be wild.
Yeah. Back in like, so I started in like early 2021. I feel like even then, and I'm sure in 2020, it was a little bit easier to put a video out and have it be seen and get like that huge spike all of a sudden, because I feel like I could just go grab 50,000 views, no problem, like anything I did. But nowadays, I don't know if the algorithms changed or it's just been saturated, but it feels like it's a lot harder to really blow up and get like a officially viral video out there. Have you had that experience?
Oh, I fully agree. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean honestly, 100%. Back in 2020, in 2021, maybe parts of 2020, those 2 years, it was so much easier to go viral. Now
Yeah.
it'll go viral, but even those, like, even if you're getting like millions of views per video, you're not getting that same like follower count that you would have back in 2020 and 2021. Like
Right.
not even.
Right. Yeah. No, I've had that same similar ish sort of experience too. Um, that's interesting. Have you ever had any like issues with actual real life employment, like from TikTok or social media? Has anything actually gotten like real on you?
Not as much as you think, and maybe
Okay.
I'm just lucky or blessed in that way. But at my old job, I I first I was a young vet. I first started blowing up like in 2020. That's when I had the biggest issues probably.
Yeah.
And actually, we had a boarding facility that my boss owned next door, a boarding daycare grooming, and those people hated me. Not all of them, but like they would make fake accounts. They would leave fake reviews on our own business page, like saying like Dr. Finn, euthanized my dog and did a TikTok dance around him or something
What?
like that. That really, that back then I was a softie, like that really affected me.
Well,
And I told
yeah.
my found out who was doing it, and like we never even spoken. Like they were just these hateful little people. And he was like, "Man, don't worry about it." And I was like, well, "What do you mean?" Like like I was kind of going to him for support, and
Yeah.
that really bothered me. That like he was just like, "Don't worry about it." And I was like, "Well, they're trashing me online. Like, it's not okay." And so that was my biggest issue. But at the same time, I've never really had any like client facing issues. One
That's good.
guy one guy did call because his daughters were watching me. Like you're like, look at this vet, he's dancing, and he was mad, so he called up there trying to get me fired.
What?
He wasn't even a client of mine; he was a colleague's client. But that was the only client who ever truly got mad, and that was whatever though.
Jeez. I would see your, I would, I saw a lot of your content. I've been following you for a while. I would say of the content that you could put out, like you have the most like, how could you possibly be mad about this sort of content? Like there's like you're just being you, and it's not like you're even being like provocative. I mean, no, you know what I mean? Like you're just having fun with the app, and it's like you could put this content on like basic cable because it's not controversial, like you know what I mean. So the fact that even that is getting people to call it and try to get you fired and making some section of people angry is like beyond my comprehension. Like I don't understand that thought process at all.
I don't get it either. But that was really the only couple of times far as I know, I haven't had a whole lot of it. Um, maybe more so than like any vet. What we
Yeah.
deal with. People have their issues with certain things, but I'm being myself and I'm being my authentic self, and I feel like you're
Yeah.
not gonna make me happy, and I'm okay with that.
Right. It is kind of like, in real life work, the things you get like complained about and 0-star reviewed for are always the things that you're not thinking about. It's always like the most trivial things or like the silliest little things that end up snowballing. And I feel like it's the same with social media people like reaching out and trying to get you fired and stuff. It's always like the most like how could this possibly get you to do this sort of scenarios. It follows the same rules that way. I think you already I was going to ask you the next question, which is like what attracted you to start using social media in the first place, which I think you already answered that. You were kind of just like, basically looking for an avenue to, I don't want to say entertain yourself, but kind of out of boredom to some extent.
It
Um,
was fun,
yeah,
and I wanted to. It was just fun. It was an outlet for me. I
yeah,
really enjoyed. No one knew who I was, so I could just be myself, and then
right,
people didn't. And then I got nervous, but it was a good outlet for a long time.
yeah. How has it with the spike in popularity and following that you've got? How has that changed your veterinary career from being a attending clinician plus public speaking and all the opportunities this has given you? What like walk me through how that changes your like week to week, month to month veterinarian life versus if you were just an attending clinician.
I mean, it's completely different. The I don't want to say like I'm on autopilot, like taking care of my patient, because I'm very much here and aware, but I've
Sure.
got a lot that I have to deal with now because social media opened the door for me to open my own practice. I'll be honest with you, even
Really?
from the point of just getting the loan for my practice, because despite what maybe a lot of people think, like I'm not rich, I don't have a lot of money, I still had to get a loan for my practice.
Right.
They Because of social media, they kind of was a little bit more for me to give me that because I'm still new. There's certain regulations you have to hit for them to just give you money to start a practice. But because of what they could Google and find out about me, they were like, "We want to give you this loan. We want to give you this practice."
Really? Now,
Yeah,
was that because of any sort of like income from social media that changed that, or is that purely just because of like your presence on social media?
it's truly just from presence. I mean, I'm
Wow.
sure they can see income, but the income is not what did it. It was just the fact that some of their other clients like knew who I was, so they're like, okay, this guy's gonna be good. Like we don't have to worry about him. He's sure hit. He'll make
Yeah.
his payment. They were like, here, take the money.
Wow. No, that I would have never guessed that in a million years that an actual like mortgage bro or a loan officer would have cared about something like that. That is crazy.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they found that out on their own. So
wow. So what that leads me to one of my other questions, which is what was the impetus for going into starting your own practice to begin with? What is that something that was always on the radar for you, or just with social media that changed that?
I always wanted to be a practice owner. Like when I first got hired on to my other practice, in our interview, he asked me, he's like, what's your 5-year, 10-year plan? I was like, I want to be a practice owner.
Really?
And he was, okay, we can talk about it. And then that was just, I figured out about 2.5 years, 3 years in, that was never going to happen there. And
We'll circle back. That's what they
and
always say.
building else for somebody else. And I can respect what he's built. I mean, that he's done a great job. I mean, that guy's very successful. Honestly, the clinic I came from practices really quality medicine. It was a great place associate, but I just didn't want to be an associate forever.
Yeah.
So I was might as well do it now. I'm getting married. We're moving. We opened up a practice, and it's hard. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like it's
Yeah.
hard, but it's way harder than I thought it would be.
Right.
Uh, Even with a huge social media following, like you still have to cater to the local people because that's who's gonna, you know, support your business. People in New Jersey can love me all they want, but they're not bringing their pets to come see me.
Right. Right. That was going to lead to my next question is how has social media made it easier, harder, or no change to find employees and clients as a practice owner?
I was first hiring, it definitely made it easier because, but like basically, as soon as I put the ad out, like from all the surrounding clinics, like people were like, "The TikTok vet's hiring," and I had a lot of applications.
Right.
But at the time, people put on some fake faces, and I'm not like the best at reading. And I hired some staff, and some of them were great and some of them were not so great. So I had to make some really tough decisions very early that I was not prepared to make.
Really?
And I love my current staff. Like, we're small. I have a small team. It's just an office manager, receptionist, and a lead technician and me. So we're a very small group.
Yeah.
I love them and I'm super appreciative for them, but I think it makes it easier to get support staff. But like, I've been, I listed an ad for a associate veterinarian 6 months ago. And I didn't get a single hit, but I can't offer what a lot of companies are offering.
Right, right. How so? You keep leading into my next questions, which is pretty impressive. What is that? What is that process like as a private practice owner? You're obviously not corporate, trying to attract employees in a market where a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate corporation can just literally throw dollars at whoever they want to. Um, how do you manage and navigate that as a practice owner?
I'm still figuring that out. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really, like, I do, I'll be honest with you. The couple staff members I have, I think that I pay them very well, like way above industry standard for our area.
yeah,
Do I think I should pay them more just based on like what they provide for me? Absolutely. And they know
yeah,
that as soon as we're in that financial place, like, I will take care of them as soon as we can. And they're taken care of. And I just, like I said, I appreciate them so much, and they know that, and I try to do what I can for them, but I want to take care of them for like putting their trust in me. But when
yeah,
it comes to an associate doctor, I mean, what we come out of debt with. I mean, what we go through, and a lot
yeah.
of times mentorship is great, but I've only been out 4.5, 5 years. I've got
Right,
a social following. They're wanting mentorship, big bonuses and a great pay, and like, we're just not there. I physically can't offer that to somebody.
right. Have you considered, because I know some GPs will have like in-house boarded internal medicine specialists and things like that, or like dentists, have you considered getting one of those and then almost like using that to build your GP practice in a way?
I actually haven't. I would definitely, like, I have a few mobile, like, I have a mobile surgery group that comes and does some pillows, orthopedics. I don't like to do. I'm comfortable doing.
Yeah,
I do have a internist a couple times for cases that are just a little bit out of my pay grade, what I feel comfortable with.
yeah,
But I love dentistry, and there are things that I wish I could offer more of. Like, an in-house dentist would be incredible.
right, right. I've heard of in other markets where I've worked in where there'll be like one internist in a GP hospital full of like, 7 or 8 other GP doctors. Um, and the internist the basically was brought in to like almost like be the in-house referral sort of deal. And then that allowed the GPs to all take on like more complicated, like, these internal medicine cases and like scopes and ultrasounds and things like that. But there was one practice in suburban Chicago where I used to work, and that was kind of the growth model, was that they brought in an internist early, and that attracted a bunch of cases that typically would have to be referred out, and then they built the practice from there because they just had more cases in the building, kind of doing that. So that, I don't know if that's ubiquitous, but I've heard of that.
No, I mean, I would love to do that. Like, my
Yeah,
is to have, a hospital where, like, we don't have to turn people away because we have all the options for them. But
right.
it's hard, it's expensive, but like, that is my dream, to
Yeah,
take your body the proper way, like through the gold standard medicine. Not just like, oh yeah, I've done TPLO. Let me take care of this TPLO for you. Like,
right.
I want people with the care they're getting.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Would you ever like build it up into where it's like a 24/7 ER specialty hospital with like 120 veterinarians, like that level? Or is the model to do, to not do that and just kind of stick to GP only and reach a certain point?
I really wish I could offer 24/7 care. I feel like a lot of my clients would appreciate that continuity of care, but right now I just can't even wrap my head around that.
Right,
We can handle what comes in, 8 to 5, but
right.
we just find staff that's willing to stay overnight. Like, that's not easy, and
Yeah,
it's a task. But like, in my fever dream, like, yes, I would love to have a big, privately owned 24/7 specialty ER GP hospital.
Right.
I just don't even. I think it's going to take a long time to get to that point.
Yeah. So would you say that the biggest challenge in practice ownership for you is just finding staff, like the common problem that everybody says?
Yeah, it's still hard for me. I mean, not
Yeah.
it's not. I again, I don't think it's easier for me. I think people are like, "Oh, that's cool." They're excited, but when it comes to like financially supporting themselves, they're going to go where they
Yeah.
feel comfortable. And I, completely understand that,
Right. I've had practice owners portray that as, oh, everybody's just greedy now, which I totally disagree with. It's just like you you have to go if you're going to be taken care of financially and it's noticeably better and worth it culture wise too, then like it's that's a totally fair decision to make. That's just the market like speaking to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, yeah, no, that's interesting. So when you decided, so what's the very first thing when you decide to start a practice? Like the very first thing, do you find real estate first or do you find financing first? Walk me through those first like 1 to 2 steps.
Yeah, so my situation might be a little different because again, the bank was like all on board with me. They were like, "Don't worry, you're gonna get approved for financing." So we were
Just keep making those videos, doc. Just keep making those videos.
as soon as they like found out who I was, they were like set me up with medical space advisors. We were looking at demographics, trying to find the right space.
Yeah.
And I did that for 8 months before I landed on my space. So
Okay.
I was an associate trying to make sure I get like approved for financing, all while looking for the right space.
Okay. So I guess it's in some way similar to like building a house where like oftentimes the lenders and the contractors all kind of work together and they've known each other before and there's like a network that you all of a sudden get access to. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, definitely there was a network. Now, do I think I should have done more due diligence, not just taking every referral that was handed to me? Absolutely, but that's in hindsight.
Yeah. You live and you learn. Um, yeah, you learn. I do real estate investing as like a hobby slash part of my financial planning. And one thing I learned really quick is that like you discover these networks and they all know each other. Like all these local banks and builders and agents and all, it's all just something, and they're all really incentivized to get you to transact. Is kind of the moral of the story there. Um, what are your favorite and your least favorite types of cases to see in practice?
I mean, honestly, my favorite, like I'm more of like a medicine guy. Like I love internal medicine. I love working up medical cases. But at the same time, like I do a lot of surgery at my practice, and I think I'm a good surgeon, but like I'm very cautious and meticulous. I'm not like this speed demon rolling through surgeries. Like I'm
Yeah.
that type of every ligature, like I'm double checking, I'm blotting, I'm making sure like nothing's oozing. And I'm
Yeah.
just a thinker in that regard. So like I did a cyst earlier this week, and we had this massive stone that's like really rewarding. Like I love things like that. But when
Yeah.
I'm closing, I'm making sure there's no leaks. Like those things keep me up at night. So I can't
Right.
say they're my favorite. I
Right.
would say surgery is my least favorite, but I do it well. I think it's taking years off my life.
I would totally agree with that with neurosurgery. Like it's I like the diving in of medical neurology with like meningitis and epilepsy and all that sort of stuff. Managing those things is really fun. The most rewarding is like spinal surgeries and getting the down dog to walk again, right? But there's been like 1 or 2 times, and this is just how it is. Sometimes they get worse no matter what you do. And you come in after you've done surgery and they just look a lot worse and they never walk again because of factors that we don't need to get into physiologically. But um, those will like create nightmares for 1 to 2 years where you're just like literally after you do any surgery now, you just have these heart palpitations, wondering what they're going to look like the next morning when you go to check on them. It's the same thing. um and I like I don't really deal with like suture site problems because the thing, that's just a formality with like spine surgery. It's like the easiest closure ever. But I have had in my earlier career, I've had a suture site fall apart or dehiss, as we say, and it's like the most sinking feeling you could possibly have. And that could happen with like literally any surgery you do. And if you do 3 surgeries a day, it's like, okay, now I'm just constantly living in a series of stressful events that I'm
Yeah.
also attached to because they make me feel good. So it's like this weird emotional back and forth. Um, okay, cool. My final question, unless you have questions or anything you want to go over, in the spirit of the one thing I would never do trend that was a little bit a while ago on TikTok, as it relates to pet ownership, pet care, or veterinary medicine in general, what is one thing that you would never do, given your knowledge base?
As a pet owner myself, I mean, I'll be honest, this has always been like a hot topic for me and people have their views on it, but like I don't take my dogs to dog parks. I just think they're like cesspools for disgusting parasites and infectious diseases. Honestly,
Okay,
there's there
you're
that
right.
you have no idea like what they've done with their pets, what they haven't done. Like there's almost no training involved. So like I don't take my pets there because I see the bad end of that, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I tell people that too. I do a lot of immunosuppression on dogs, and I tell them you can't go there anymore while we're on these meds for sure. Um, Final question, where do you see, yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see like veterinary medicine going the next like 5 or 10 years or so?
I mean, we've got a lot of things going on with like what is it, like Web3, we've got AI, we've got a lot of things happening. I think I even saw a case, maybe you saw it too, where someone was trying to like made a board complaint with the vet because AI diagnosed their pet based on their blood work and the vet didn't. I didn't really
Yeah,
follow
it
it.
was like a Babesia case or something.
Yeah, it was like Babesia, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, kind of like an odd thing. Like that's not just like an everyday occurrence deal. But like I think that with the internet and social media, I mean, I know we've got hot topics like telemedicine. I mean, I think that telemedicine can definitely be beneficial. I mean, technically we practice it every day, like over the phone. Like I'll prescribe certain things for clients that I've seen.
yeah,
Uh, I think it's useful in certain cases, but I don't know. I mean, I think that there's less and less like private practices, and we're definitely becoming more corporate owned. And like even around me, like all of the practices that opened 10 years ago are now owned by corporations. Like I've got one, like there's three hospitals around me, all three are owned by the same corporation. And
yeah,
so like it's really hard for me to compete with some of the things that they can offer.
right.
But I don't know. I see it becoming more almost like robotic and less like family owned.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's definitely the trend. Um, a little bit of a depressing note.
Yeah, I mean, I love like where I want to be. I mean, I truly love doing stuff like this. Like I love speaking. Like I enjoy speaking at the vet school, and I
Yeah,
love the room. But like personally, like I want to be helping more vets like feel confident, come out of their shells. Like I want them to. I mean, you know what vet school's like. Like there's a certain
yeah,
type personality that like usually gets accepted to vet school, and I don't think a lot of us are like super social butterflies. I think we're
yeah,
very
yeah.
very bi
It,
and
it's
like
it selects for a very introspective type of person. I
yeah,
think.
and
Yeah,
and and we've got a lot of people like people dog on us a lot for a lot of things that
yeah,
like are best, and I want to really help veterinarians and support staff, and I think that's my true passion. Like I love being a practice owner. I love what we're creating, but do I see myself being in the exam room forever? Probably not. I want
yeah.
to do more traveling, and I really like that.
I can't help but notice people that have been in the exam room forever. They, it. I want to be careful how I say this. It really looks like it's worn on them throughout
Yeah.
their life. Um, and I see that, and I think the same thing. I'm 41, so I'm guessing I'm probably like 10 or 12 years older than you, and I am kind of like in the on deck circle of seeing that, you know, coming down the pipe, and I can feel it happening. These insane weeks and months and years that I put into clinical work. It's like, am I really going to arrive at the age of 60 and be doing this still? Like, I don't think I'll physically be able to.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what's going to change? I don't know. you know, so I got to think of something in 20 years. But no, I totally feel that. Is there any sort of message you want to put out there, or anything you want to plug, or anything you want to kind of leave as a final kind of commentary for our discussion? I mean, I'm sitting
Uh,
here telling you to plug something. I mean, it should be kind of the opposite, but but nonetheless, would you like to?
I mean, really, I think things like this are good, like what, 10, 20 years ago, things like this didn't exist. Like there were no, I didn't know doing like podcasts, talk, like communicating with each other. Like you and I communicated about cases. Like you've helped me a lot with a lot of my like neuro cases, like with my own dog. So
Yeah.
I really like that aspect of veterinary medicine. I think it helps us as a whole. But I don't really have a plug, I guess. I
No,
think that
you
we
are
should
the
be doing,
plug.
that's what I think. I love this
Yeah.
stuff. I'm
Yeah.
glad to see specialists like you doing things like this too, because a lot of
Yeah.
specialists I feel like are not like that, and they're
No, they're
very
not.
in their own and in their own like reserve, and like it's hard to
Yeah.
get them to open like this.
I've been told I'm too normal to be a neurologist. I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
You're too communicative and like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's specialists. You know how they are. Sometimes they can be like really tough, and I'm sure you've experienced that.
They look at you. I'm sure I'm guilty of this, by the way, but they look at you if you come up to them in their case and they kind of give you that look like if you don't say something smart in 5 seconds, I'm out of here, sort of a deal. And it can be really stressful for a young vet and a vet student. I had a one of the teachers at the professors, clinicians at the at my vet school, who literally told me to F off one day after about 5 seconds. I was trying to tell him about a case. It was an exotic sort of thing. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll see you later. So much for that. And I go back to the rotation I was on, and they're like, what did they say? I said, well, they actually told me to F off. And that was that. So yeah,
That'll
yeah, that's definitely a thing.
especially clinical rotations. That is a very good summary. Not it depends on who it is and like where they're at in
Yeah.
their career.
Yeah.
People like you can't ask them anything. Like
No.
you're gonna get belittled. They're
Yeah.
gonna take off. It's not gonna be a good experience.
Right. It's not, I wouldn't say it's common, but it's common enough to like really like kind of leave a mark in you for sure.
I
Yeah.
had some wonderful lists that like I appreciate so much, and
Yeah.
there's there's that few that you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go over here.
Yeah. But it's not like 1%, it's like 8%. You know,
Yeah.
you know? Definitely some. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I really do. I know you're super busy. You've got a lot of social media and real life stuff going on all together. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Appreciate it. And maybe we can do this maybe like once a year or something like that going forward if there's anything specific to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy
Okay.
to come on, talk about other stuff, or
Cool, man.
go into or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, all right, guys, make sure you follow Dr. Finn on TikTok, Instagram. Are there any other socials besides TikTok and Instagram that you
That's really all.
Okay. And it's I believe it is Dr. Hunter Finn on both, at Dr. Hunter Finn. We'll put it at the bottom here. Cool, man. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel as well. Guys, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.